Okay. All right, so we'll call to order the June 24th meeting of the West Sacramento City Council, Redevelopment Successor Agency and Financing Authority. We're meeting tonight pursuant to Governor's Executive Order N-29-20, pursuant to which the West Sacramento City Council and staff are participating in this meeting via teleconference. And to reduce the spread of COVID-19, members of the public have been asked to watch the meeting via live stream through the city's website or on Wave Cable Channel 20, and to submit comments to the city clerk in writing by 6 p.m. Comments that are received by the city clerk are posted on our website next to the meeting agenda and items and to the video itself, which provides a greater degree of transparency than existed prior to the COVID executive order. There's no limitation on the length of those comments, and they are visible and searchable by all. We have a quorum that is present, so let's go to item 1A, which is presentations. Oh, I'm sorry, the council did meet in closed session. We have no actions to report this evening. Is that correct, Mr. Attorney, with respect to the first item?
That is correct.
Thank you. We have no actions to report on either item, so we'll proceed to item 1A, which is presentations by the public on matters not on the agenda, but within the jurisdiction of the City Council. Madam Clerk, we received public comments on this on agenda item number 1A. And we have.
Yes, we received one public comment for this item.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And that item, that comment is published in its entirety on the website, and copies have been made available to each member of the council. I point out also that typically the communications that we receive under public comment are in writing, but it is we'll also accept other forms of submissions as well. So videos, audio files, other forms of commentary. I've read that folks have been interested in being able to give oral testimony, and that's also possible by video submission to that same email address at the clerk's office. Right, item 1B is council communications. Are there reports or other communications from our liaison assignments that are printed on the agenda? Mayor Pro Tem Sandine.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The West Sac Area Flood Control Agency met on June 18th. We approved flood control assessments and assessment collection for fiscal year 2020-2021. We also heard an update on the Southport Levee, can't read my handwriting, Southport Levee project, drainage project, which included used swales that were added on Chicory Loop, which is going to the marinas and yacht clubs. You may have noticed some of this, Linden Road cul-de-sac and the maintenance corridor. We also heard an update on the Southport Levee Borrow site restoration project. And we were given provided background about an economic update to the Southport Levee project by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and related to federal funding, which last week when we met looks very promising.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Sandine. Are there other reports or communications with respect to our liaison assignments this evening? I'll simply report for the United States Conference of Mayors. We are actually in the middle of our annual meeting that was to take place in Austin, Texas, but is taking place virtually all week this week. On Monday, the Jobs, Education, and the Workforce Committee, which Council knows I am at the honor to chair, heard a presentation about the West Sacramento Home Runs new every graduating senior gets an acceptance letter to college initiative, and there were wide open mouths around the country from mayors who were very impressed with the work that West Sacramento has shown on the home run in general, but this particular initiative, its simplicity, its power, it's the testimony that we've seen on it from a Nobel Prize winner in economics and many others around its impact and effectiveness. So it's already being showcased as a national model for improving access to higher education choice by young people, and in particular in the COVID situation, a recognition of the challenges, the unique challenges that our high school graduating class is facing, and the efforts of one community in America trying to do something about it. So thanks so much to the council for your support in that work. The SACOG board also met on last Thursday. Most of the items I've already reported on it through the transportation committee as well. So with that, then, if there are no other reports under item 1B, and we have no appointments this evening to consider, so that we'll move to our one regular agenda item, which is item 2, an update and actions on the city's COVID-19 response actions. Mr. Director of Emergency Services.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, members of the council. So tonight, I just want to give you a brief update. And the topic is testing. So first, some good news. We did confirm that the testing site up on Riverbank Road will actually be extended through July 3rd. We had to work out some details there. So that's good that we'll have it go at least into July. We are in discussions with the county about extending it even further. I think it's safe to say that that's something the council would support. So we've been working with our EOCs on the logistics of that. No guarantees yet, but we are hopeful that we can extend it further into the summer because we know we definitely need it. So on that topic, on the bad news side, unfortunately, the last 4 days, it's not even reflected in the report because you had the update as of yesterday. We've had the highest number of cases in 4 days than we've had the entire emergency declaration period on a weekly basis. So there's been 26 new cases just in the last 4 days. Largest 1 week jump yet. That's coming off of a week prior where we had 23 new cases, which would have otherwise set the record. Now, of course, part of that is attributable to the fact that we are ramping up testing so much, doing so much more testing, but that really isn't the story here. It really has to do through what we found with contact tracing efforts through the county, that it has more to do with gatherings, in particular, things like family gatherings, and the tracing that occurred beyond that. So these are not your typical, someone goes to the OptumServe test site and gets a positive test. There are some numbers in that overall, but it's definitely concerning that the community spread is still happening and it's being concentrated in very avoidable situations, in gatherings that technically really shouldn't be happening right now under the state order. So that tells us a few things. One is that there's still a huge priority of getting the message out to people and having it hopefully stick that the personal responsibility aspect of this is very important. It's really the only way we can box this in and prevent the spread that's happening now from getting worse. But also what we're trying to do on the testing data side is working with the county to get more precise demographic data about the testing that's taking place. Ideally, not just on demographics, but also by geography. We have 2 zip codes in West Sacramento and communities within those zip codes. The goal would be if we can get better data, we can identify the trends that could be happening and target our outreach accordingly to reach the affected communities. It's difficult to do. We've had some experience with that as we've gone through the process that you're aware of, but that's really essential in this moment right now. So that's the basic news. The other updates are in there, the statistical updates and including the social media data further in the report. But I didn't have any other significant updates on the other topics for tonight. So I'll see if there's any questions from the council. Thank you.
Other questions? Mayor Pro Tem Sandine.
Thank you. Mr. Laurel, you mentioned the increases based on gatherings, which I think is important to continue to push out messages about that and following the state order. I also wanted to ask about, do we have any sense about business compliance to the state and county health orders? And I'm just curious about that because I feel like whatever we can do to support businesses and provide them guidance, or in the case that we need to figure out getting compliance, working with the chamber, or thinking about the tools that we have as a city to do that. I think it's just really important as we're seeing these numbers rise and just along this journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something that actually I have weekly calls with the other city manager and the other city managers in the county and the county administrator. That was the topic of today's call. The broad topic of as we experience more cases and we are tracing back to, again, preventable outbreaks and some associated with locations. I don't want to single out just businesses in general. There's other organizations, community organizations that have facilities that are subject here as well. We do have certain tools we can use under the order. Yolo County Public Health does have jurisdiction to enforce public health orders within West Sacramento. What that looks like is, right now, there's a ability to go up to a misdemeanor and a fine. But we're also exploring, now I'm talking really about the enforcement side, not really the messaging side that you mentioned, but also on the enforcement side, there's discussion of, much like we do in our code enforcement approach, we have the ability to issue fines to the point where we can actually lien property if needed. That's something that is being explored on a countywide basis. The goal would be that we all adopt sort of the same regulations and program so that it can be universally understood across Yolo County. So that's another thing that's being explored right now. We do have other more limited local enforcement tools that are a little more heavy-handed if the need would be there. I mean, obviously we do control business licenses. We are a utility provider, things like that. Not that we're going into those areas yet, but we're looking at all of the tools that we have to bring about enforcement, and also working with the county to have uniformity across the different cities, and coordinating with county public health on their ability to enforce here as well. So it's definitely a topic that's going to continue to be at our level. But I do think what is equally and possibly probably more important is what you also said is the messaging to the community about what it really takes to box this in and keep it that way. It really comes down to personal responsibility and people not putting themselves in situations where community spread is more likely to occur. And that's something we will continue to reinforce with our messaging. And we're coming up with different ways to do that. But it's also, there's only so much we can do with that before it really falls on our residents and businesses to ensure compliance.
Just to join Mayor Pro Tem Sandine's comment, and I think the direction she was headed on this one, because I think what some of the behavioral science research is showing, and last week we got featured in a lot of these, so I started reading the rest of the research in the space, is that compliance is only modestly affected by messaging. It's mainly affected by actions and consequences. And so I think typically we tend to, because we're a customer-oriented, citizen-oriented organization, we tend to say, well, maybe it's best if we don't do anything, no hard enforcement at first. Let's just put the word out that it's important. And then if people if we're seeing non-compliance, then maybe let's go issue a warning. And maybe after that, then let's systematically think about small fines or something. But the problem with that is that it doesn't move the psychology of the community at large. That the signal is that there's very small steps get washed away pretty quickly. And so some of the research is saying that sort of announcing fairly early that that you are running the risk of losing your business license and having your water cut off, as an example, if you do not comply with the county order on masks, as an example, or on social distancing protocols in restaurants or in shopping. Stating that very clearly, very directly. It's contrary to everything that we think of as folks in politics, because we don't want to make people upset. But being very direct at the outset is an important way to leverage the understanding of the urgency, and not just for business owners in that case, but even that people are more likely to take the guidance on gatherings more seriously if our other actions are also serious. So they do relate to one another. And I would just put a finer point on it. I would just ask that when you come back in your report at the next meeting, which is in 2 weeks, that you give us give us your thinking and your findings about these other tools as well. I think the asymptomatic testing, the positivity rates data that we've seen in prior weeks as well, just on the gathering pieces, given that this is a council that's 80% people of color and 3 of our members are Latinos, it's just important to emphasize in our county that the positive test rate for Latinos is significantly higher. And there's nothing biological about that. We all know what I mean. I'm Filipino, not Latino, but I know what my community likes to do in terms of gathering and celebrations and food and sharing and all of that. And there are ways in which we can be together as families in ways that we really can't safely do. And so I think it is incumbent on our leadership, including the council, all of us, to be modeling and conveying those messages in every community in the city, regardless of every geography of the city, in every demography of the city as well going forward. Other questions or comments for the city manager on item 2? All right then, thank you, Mr. Manager. Then we'll proceed to the council calendar.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Coming up in a week or so, we have the Planning Commission on Thursday, July 2nd. Right now on the calendar, it shows that it be in the council chambers, but obviously that'll be by teleconference. So we'll make that update. And then we'll have the 4th of July holiday and our city offices will be closed. We did just reopen City Hall and we'll be closing again for the holiday weekend. That's it for me.
Thank you. Questions on the calendar? Thank you, Ms. Berlin. City Manager report.
Yeah, just really briefly, actually meant to mention this in my previous report, but it's related to Project Room Key. We're waiting anxiously for a NOFA, Notice of Funding Availability, that will be related to the deployment of the money that the governor and the legislature ultimately approved in the budget. So just a heads up on that we'll likely be bringing back an item related to that at a future meeting.
All right, Mr. Manager, I did have a question on your report. So, as you know, as everybody in America knows, we've had a significant increase in fireworks activities and complaints, and it's obviously not unique to our city. You know, the Boston's reported a 2,600% increase in fireworks complaints. New York City, 920% increase in fireworks complaints. Sacramento, most of the cities around us. So this is a society-wide problem at the moment. But and I know we're receiving our share of complaints, and I believe through social media and other sources, I know that all 5 of us are hearing them too, just as residents in our own neighborhoods. And I'm wondering if you have any insights or updates that you might be able to provide us with respect to that issue.
Yeah, we know it's a major issue right now with the combination of both people being home, other traditional fireworks displays not planning to occur on July 4th. So we anticipate it being a much more active night than we're used to. But it's most concerning that the activity is ramping up so much at the volume it is, but also as early as it is. So we did have an exchange between our public information officer, police chief, fire chief. They're working on a messaging effort there, and also on the police enforcement side, I think we're looking into what we can do. As you know, I mean, it's very difficult to enforce things like informal fireworks displays or just kind of block by block activity, just because it happens and it's over and it gets a report. But if it's not sort of caught in the act, it's very difficult to police. That's not to say that we don't take those calls seriously, but I think again, a lot of things come down to messaging and compliance, and this is one where we're going to do our best to put out something to the community to both reinforce what is allowed, what isn't allowed, but also how to report instances, because if we see a pattern every night, the same house or the same block, those are the types of things that can be actionable for the police department. So more to come on that, but we are definitely aware of the issue and its prevalence right now in particular.
Okay, great, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, yes, I think emphasizing how to report if there is any photography, submission of the photography, a specific neighbor, and what the actionable, item would be that they would need to take to submit that, and then as far as enforcement, at least notifying the caller, we're taking action. But I do think that that is necessary because it happens year over year by the same neighbors. And I just want to make sure that they are aware that they need to be in compliance. Thank you.
All right, thank you. With that, City Attorney report.
I have nothing to report.
Staff direction for members of the council. We have no future agenda item requests, so is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second that?
Moved by Councilmember Orozco and seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Sandin. It's not debatable, so Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll on the motion to adjourn?
Evening, Mayor. Councilmember Guerrero,
Aye.
Councilmember Ledesma,
Aye.
Councilmember Orozco,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Sandin,
Aye.
and Mayor Cabaldan.
Aye, that motion carries and the meeting is adjourned. Thank you all very much. Please stay safe and have a great evening. Good night.
Good night.